The richest man on Earth stood frozen at the podium, 50 million people watching his empire crumble in real time. Dr. Sarah Chun had just exposed Tesla's deadliest secret, the cover-up that killed an 8-year-old girl. The cameras zoomed in as sweat beaded on Elon Musk's forehead. His lawyers were shaking their heads frantically. His stock price was already plummeting. How do you explain the death of Emma Rodriguez? Dr. Chin demanded. For once, the man who always had an answer was speechless. The silence stretched impossibly long. Then Elon spoke just one sentence that no one saw coming. A sentence that would destroy his business empire, but save his soul. What he said next changed everything. But to understand why those words had such power, we need to go back 3 months. Earlier, to a dying boy's hospital room and a promise that would cost everything. The bright lights of Stanford University's Memorial Auditorium felt like 100 suns burning down on Elon Musk's face. He stood at the wooden podium, his white shirt damp with sweat despite the cool October evening. 2,000 people packed the red velvet seats before him. Their eyes watched his every move like hungry wolves. But it wasn't the crowd that made his heart pound. It was the number flashing on the big screen above the stage. 50,247,891 viewers watching live online. 50 million people around the world had tuned in to see if the richest man on Earth would finally fall. Ladies and gentlemen, said the debate moderator, Professor Janet Walsh, welcome to what many are calling the most important tech debate of our time. The crowd clapped, but it sounded cold. Angry. These weren't his fans. These were people who wanted answers. People who wanted blood. Across the stage, Dr. Sarah Chun adjusted her glasses and smiled. She looked calm, ready, like a hunter who had spent months setting the perfect trap. Elon had known Sarah for 3 years. She used to work for him at Tesla. She used to believe in his dream of saving the world with electric cars. But something had changed her. Something had turned his friend into his worst enemy. Dr. Chun, Professor Walsh said, "You may begin." Sarah stood up slowly. She wore a simple black dress that made her look serious, professional, trustworthy. Everything Elon's expensive suit and flashy watch made him look like he wasn't. "Thank you, Professor Walsh," Sarah said. Her voice carried clearly through the auditorium without the microphone. "I stand before you tonight not as a competitor to Mr. Musk, but as someone who once believed in his vision." She clicked a remote. The giant screen behind them lit up with the Tesla logo. "I worked for Tesla for 2 years. I helped design the autopilot system that Mr. Musk promised would save lives. I believed we were building the future." The screen changed. Now it showed a graph with red lines going up, numbers that looked bad. But I discovered something that changed everything. Tesla's autopilot system has caused 47 accidents in the past 18 months. Accidents that Tesla never reported to the public. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Elon felt his stomach drop. Those numbers were supposed to be secret. "That's not true," Elon said, stepping closer to his microphone. "Our safety record is better than human drivers." Sarah interrupted. "That's what you always say, isn't it, Mr. Musk? But what about the accidents you hide? What about the families you never call?" The screen changed again. This time it showed photos. Real people. A teenage boy with a bright smile. An old man holding his granddaughter. A young mother pushing a baby stroller. "These are the faces Tesla doesn't want you to see," Sarah said. "These are the people who died because Tesla's autopilot failed them." Elon's throat felt dry. His legal team had prepared him for this moment. They had given him talking points. Ways to fight back. Ways to make Sarah look bad. But staring at those faces, he couldn't remember a single word they had told him. "Mr. Musk," Professor Walsh said, "would you like to respond?" 50 million people waited for his answer. The auditorium was so quiet he could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. "These accidents," Elon began, his voice shaky, "they're tragic. Every life lost is a tragedy. But we can't judge new technology by new technology." Sarah's voice cut through his words like a knife. "Mr. Musk, Tesla's autopilot has been on the market for 5 years. How long before you stop calling it new?" She clicked her remote again. The screen showed a video. Security camera footage from a street corner. Black and white, grainy, but clear enough to see what happened. A white Tesla drove slowly down a quiet street. A school crossing guard in a bright yellow vest stepped into the crosswalk. She held up her stop sign. She waved her other hand. The Tesla didn't slow down. The impact threw the crossing guard 15 feet. She didn't get up. The auditorium went dead silent. Some people covered their mouths. Others looked away from the screen, but Sarah kept talking. This happened 3 months ago in Austin, Texas. The crossing guard's name was Mrs. Patricia Martinez. She was 54 years old. She had worked at Sunny Hills Elementary School for 12 years. Every child in that school loved her. Sarah paused. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, sadder. Mrs. Martinez was protecting an 8-year-old girl named Emma Rodriguez. Emma was walking to school that morning, just like she did every day. She was carrying her favorite backpack, the pink one with unicorns on it. The screen showed a school photo. A little girl with pigtails and braces, smiling wide at the camera. Emma Rodriguez died that morning, Mr. Musk. She died because Tesla's autopilot system couldn't recognize a crossing guard stop sign. A simple stop sign that any human driver would have seen. Elon felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Emma Rodriguez. That name hit him like a lightning bolt. It couldn't be a coincidence. The Tesla driver survived, Sarah continued. He was texting on his phone, trusting your autopilot to keep everyone safe. But your system failed. It killed a crossing guard and an innocent child. She turned to face Elon directly. Her eyes were fierce, angry, but also sad. Mr. Musk, how do you explain the death of Emma Rodriguez, age 8, when your autopilot system failed to detect a school crossing guard? The question hung in the air like smoke. 50 million people waited for his answer. The cameras zoomed in on his face. Every bead of sweat, every nervous blink. Elon looked out at the crowd. In the third row, he saw an elderly woman wiping tears from her cheeks. Something about her face looked familiar. Those kind eyes, that gentle smile, even through the sadness. Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus's teacher, Emma's grandmother. The room started to spin. All the memories came flooding back. A hospital room in Austin. A brave little boy with big dreams. A promise made to a dying child. Keep your promises, Mr. Musk. No matter what happens, always tell the truth. Marcus's words echoed in his mind. The promise he had made 3 months ago. The promise that was about to destroy everything he had built. Elon looked at Sarah, then at the cameras, then at the 50 million people watching around the world. His legal team in the front row was shaking their heads. They knew what he was thinking. They were begging him with their eyes to stick to the plan, to deny everything, to fight back. But Elon couldn't stop staring at Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus's teacher, Emma's grandmother, the woman who had lost everything. Because of his failure to keep his word, the silence stretched on. Professor Walsh cleared her throat. Mr. Musk? The question was about Emma Rodriguez and the crossing guard accident. Elon took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. Because I made a promise to a dying child that I would never break, even if it destroyed me. The crowd erupted. Shouts of confusion filled the auditorium. Cameras flashed like strobing lights. Professor Walsh banged her gavel, trying to restore order. What promise? Sarah shouted over the noise. What child? But Elon was already walking away from the podium. His legal team jumped up, trying to follow him. Security guards moved to block the reporters rushing toward the stage. As he reached the side exit, Elon turned back one last time. Mrs. Rodriguez was still sitting in the third row, no longer crying. She was watching him with something that looked almost like hope. He pushed through the door and disappeared into the hallway, leaving 50 million people with burning questions that would change everything. 3 months earlier, Austin, Texas. Marcus Thompson pressed his face against the cold hospital window and watched the rain fall on the parking lot below. The drops raced each other down the glass like tiny rockets heading to Earth. At 12 years old, Marcus still loved to pretend everything was a space mission, even dying. The tumor is growing faster than we hoped, Dr. Williams had told his mom that morning. We're looking at weeks, maybe a month or 2. Marcus had pretended to be asleep, but he heard every word. He was good at pretending. He had to be. His mom cried enough without knowing he was scared too. Marcus, honey, time for your medicine. Janet Thompson called from across the room. She tried to sound cheerful, but Marcus could hear the sadness hiding in her voice. His mom worked 2 jobs to pay for his treatments at Dell Children's Medical Center. She cleaned offices at night and served coffee during the day. Her hands were always red and cracked from the cleaning chemicals. She thought Marcus didn't notice, but he saw everything. Mom, Can we watch the SpaceX launch today? Marcus asked, settling back into his hospital bed. The sheets smelled like bleach and sadness. Of course, baby. Janet sat beside him and turned on the tablet. Which one is it today? They're sending supplies to the space station. But someday, they'll go to Mars. Marcus's eyes lit up despite the pain medicine making him sleepy. Mr. Musk says humans will live on Mars in my lifetime. Janet's smile flickered. Marcus's lifetime was getting shorter every day. The launch was perfect. The rocket shot into the blue sky like a silver arrow. When the booster landed back on Earth, Marcus cheered and clapped his thin hands. Mom, I want to meet him, Marcus said suddenly. Who, honey? Elon Musk. Marcus stopped. He never said the word die in front of his mom. Before I get too sick. Janet felt her heart break a little more. Sweetie, Mr. Musk is very busy. He runs big companies, and I know he's busy saving the world, Marcus interrupted. But maybe he has 5 minutes to meet someone who believes in his dream. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, Janet sat at the tiny desk in their apartment. She opened her laptop and started typing. Dear Mr. Musk, my name is Janet Thompson. I'm writing about my son Marcus. He's 12 years old, and he's dying of brain cancer. The doctors say he has maybe 2 months left. Marcus loves everything you do. He talks about Mars colonies and electric cars every day. Even when the chemo makes him sick, he watches your rocket launches and Tesla videos that I know you get thousands of letters. I know you're busy changing the world. But if there's any way you could spare a few minutes to meet Marcus, it would make his last days perfect. Please. He's such a good boy. He deserves to meet his hero. Sincerely, Janet Thompson. She sent the email to every Tesla and SpaceX address she could find online. Then she sent it again and again. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in California, Elon Musk was having the worst week of his life. Tesla's stock had dropped 15% after another news story about autopilot accidents. His engineers were working 20-hour days trying to fix software bugs. The media was calling him reckless, dangerous, a fraud. The board wants to meet with you tomorrow, his assistant Lisa Park said, walking into his office at Tesla headquarters. They're not happy about the Wall Street Journal article. Elon rubbed his tired eyes. Which article? There are 3 this week calling me a liar. The one about Dr. Sarah Chun. She's talking to reporters about safety problems. She says Tesla is hiding accident data. Sarah Chun, his former head of safety, the woman who used to believe in Tesla's mission. Now she was on TV every night, telling the world that Tesla cars were dangerous. Sir, there's something else, Lisa said carefully. We've been getting a lot of emails about a sick boy in Texas. His mother wants you to visit him. I don't have time for publicity stunts, Elon snapped. Every dying kid in America wants to meet me. I can't save them all. But Lisa didn't leave. She stood there holding a tablet, looking uncomfortable. What? Elon asked. I printed some of the emails. This boy, Marcus Thompson, he's been writing to us for 6 months, even when he was getting chemotherapy. Look at this. She handed him a printed email with crayon drawings attached. Stick figures standing on a red planet. Rocket ships with Tesla logos. A smiling boy waving from Mars. Dear Mr. Musk, the email read in careful handwriting. My name is Marcus and I'm 12. I have brain cancer, but I still dream about Mars. I drew you some pictures of what Mars cities might look like. The green domes are for growing food. The silver tubes are for traveling between cities. I hope you like them. Keep changing the world. Your friend, Marcus. Elon stared at the drawings for a long time. The boy had thought of everything. Solar panels, underground tunnels to protect from radiation, even a Tesla factory on Mars. How long has he been writing to us? Elon asked quietly. 6 months. Every week. Sometimes every day when he's feeling good enough. Elon looked at his calendar. Meetings with lawyers. Calls with investors. A photo shoot for Time magazine. All the important business of being important. But Marcus Thompson was dying, and he believed in the future Elon was trying to build. Cancel my Thursday meetings, Elon said suddenly. Sir, I'm going to Austin. That same week, Marcus was getting weaker. The headaches came more often now. Sometimes he couldn't remember simple words. The doctors said the tumor was pressing on parts of his brain, but he kept dreaming about Mars. He kept drawing pictures of rocket ships and electric cars. He kept writing letters to Elon Musk, even when holding the pencil made his hand shake. Maybe we should stop sending the emails. Janet said one evening. Mr. Musk is probably too busy to read them. Marcus looked up from his latest drawing. This one showed a Tesla Roadster flying through space toward Mars, just like the one Elon had launched on a SpaceX rocket. Mom, do you think dreams come true? If you believe hard enough? Janet's eyes filled with tears. I think some dreams do, baby. The really important ones. Marcus smiled and went back to his drawing. He added stars to the space around the flying car. Hundreds of tiny stars, each one a hope that maybe, somehow, his hero would hear him calling. He had no idea that 3,000 miles away, Elon Musk was already packing for Texas or that their meeting would change both of their lives forever. The rain kept falling outside Marcus's hospital window. But inside, a boy who was running out of time kept believing in impossible things. Tomorrow would bring surprises that neither of them expected. The black Tesla Model S pulled into the Dell Children's Medical Center parking lot just as the sun was setting. Elon Musk sat in the back seat, watching the pink and orange sky through the tinted windows. He had flown from California on his private jet, but somehow this short car ride felt like the longest journey of his life. Sir, the media doesn't know you're here, his security chief, Tom Bradley, said from the front seat. We can keep this private if we move quickly. Elon nodded, but his mind was somewhere else. In his briefcase were dozens of Marcus's letters and drawings. Pictures of Mars cities with underground tunnels, rocket ships with solar panel wings, a boy's dreams drawn in crayon and colored pencil. The hospital lobby was quiet at 8 o'clock in the evening. A few tired doctors walked past, their white coats wrinkled from long shifts. Elon wore a simple black hoodie and jeans, trying to look like any other visitor. Room 412, the nurse at the desk said with a kind smile. Marcus has been asking about you all day. He's very excited. As they walked down the long hallway, Elon could hear his heart beating in his ears. What do you say to a dying child? How do you give hope to someone who's running out of time? Janet Thompson was waiting outside Marcus's room. She looked smaller in person than Elon had imagined. Her hair was pulled back in a tired ponytail, and her clothes looked like she had worn them to both of her jobs that day. Mr. Musk, she whispered, as if saying his name too loud might make him disappear. You really came. Marcus sounded like someone worth meeting. Elon said softly, Janet's eyes filled with tears. He's been planning what to say to you for weeks. He has so many questions about Mars. She opened the door slowly. The room was small but bright. The walls were covered with pictures Marcus had drawn, rockets and planets and cars that could fly. On the table beside his bed were model spaceships and a toy Tesla that looked well-loved. Marcus was sitting up in bed, wearing pajamas covered with little rocket ships. He was thinner than Elon had expected, and his head was covered with just a little bit of fuzzy hair growing back from chemotherapy. But his eyes were bright and alert. You're really here, Marcus said, his voice full of wonder. I'm really here, Elon replied, sitting down in the chair beside the bed. I brought you something. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a miniature SpaceX rocket, signed by every engineer who had worked on the real thing. Marcus held it carefully, like it was made of gold. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. For the next 3 hours, they talked about everything. Mars colonies and electric airplanes, solar power and rocket fuel. Marcus asked questions that made Elon think harder than most business meetings. Mr. Musk, why do you want to go to Mars so badly? Marcus asked. Elon was quiet for a moment. Because Earth is our cradle, but we can't stay in the cradle forever. Humans need to become a multi-planet species to survive. But what if Mars doesn't want us? Marcus asked seriously. What if we mess up Mars like we messed up Earth? The question surprised Elon. Most adults never thought that deeply about space exploration. That's why we have to be better on Mars, Elon said. We have to learn from our mistakes. Marcus nodded like this made perfect sense. That's why you make electric cars too. To fix our mistakes on Earth while we get ready for Mars. Exactly, Elon smiled. This 12-year-old understood his mission better than most investors. They looked at Marcus's drawings together. The boy had thought of problems Elon's engineers were still working on. How to grow food in Martian soil. How to protect people from radiation. How to build cities that could expand as more people arrived. Marcus, these ideas are incredible, Elon said, holding up a drawing of a dome-shaped city. Have you thought about becoming an engineer? Marcus's smile faded a little. I wanted to. I wanted to work for SpaceX someday. But the doctors say. He stopped, and looked at his hands. The doctors say what? They say I probably won't see Christmas. The words hit Elon like a punch to the chest. Here was this brilliant, hopeful boy who understood the future better than most adults. And he was dying. Marcus, Elon said carefully, can I ask you something? Sure. Aren't you scared? Marcus thought for a long moment. Sometimes. But being scared doesn't help anything. I'd rather spend my time thinking about Mars. They talked until almost midnight. Marcus showed Elon his notebook full of ideas for space travel. Elon shared stories about the early days of SpaceX, when rockets kept exploding and everyone said he was crazy. Mr. Musk, Marcus said as Elon was getting ready to leave. Can you promise me something? What's that? Marcus's voice became very serious. Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll always tell the truth. Even when it's hard. Even when people don't want to hear it. The request surprised Elon. Why is that important to you? Because my dad left when I got sick. He told my mom he couldn't handle it, but that wasn't the truth. The truth was he was scared and selfish. If he had been honest from the beginning, it would have hurt less. Marcus looked directly into Elon's eyes. The world has lots of smart people and rich people, but it doesn't have enough honest people. Promise me you'll always tell the truth, even if it hurts. Elon felt something shift inside his chest. This dying boy was asking him to be better than he had ever been. I promise, Marcus. I'll always tell the truth. Marcus smiled, and for a moment, he looked like any other happy 12-year-old. Good, because the world needs honest heroes more than it needs perfect ones. Elon stayed until Marcus fell asleep, still holding the miniature rocket. As he stood to leave, he noticed a piece of paper on the nightstand. It was a drawing Marcus had made that evening while they talked. The picture showed Earth and Mars connected by a bridge made of stars. At the bottom, in careful handwriting, Marcus had written, "For Mr. Musk, keep your promises. Love, Marcus." Elon folded the drawing carefully and put it in his pocket. He didn't know it yet, but those 4 words, "keep your promises," would change his life forever. Outside, Janet was waiting in the hallway. "Thank you," she whispered. "He hasn't smiled like that in months." "He's an amazing kid," Elon said. "One of the smartest people I've ever met. Will you come back tomorrow?" Elon looked through the door. At Marcus sleeping peacefully, the toy rocket still in his hands. "I'll be here." For the next 3 days, Elon visited Marcus every evening. They planned Mars cities and designed electric airplanes. They talked about the future like Marcus would be there to see it done on the last day. Marcus gave Elon the drawing of Earth and Mars connected by stars. "So you don't forget your promise," he said with a weak smile. Elon didn't know that in just 2 weeks, Marcus would be gone. And he didn't know that the promise he made to a dying boy would someday force him to choose between his business empire and his word. All he knew was that Marcus Thompson had reminded him why he started dreaming about Mars in the first place. To give humanity hope for tomorrow. 2 weeks later, Elon was in a Tesla board meeting when his phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Janet Thompson's number. He almost didn't answer. The meeting was important, and the board members were already angry about Tesla's falling stock price. But something made him step outside into the hallway. "Hello, Janet." "Mr. Musk." Her voice was so quiet he could barely hear her. "Marcus is gone." The words hit him like a truck. Elon sat down hard on a bench in the hallway, still holding the phone to his ear. "When?" he managed to ask. "This morning. He went to sleep last night and just didn't wake up." Janet was crying now. "He was holding that rocket you gave him. And your drawing. The one with Earth and Mars." Elon closed his eyes. 2 weeks ago, Marcus had been planning cities on Mars. Now he was gone. "The funeral is Friday," Janet continued. "I know you're busy, but Marcus would have wanted you to know." "I'll be there," Elon said without hesitation. "You don't have to. I'll be there." The funeral was held at a small church in Austin. Only 20 people came. Family members Elon didn't recognize. A few of Marcus's friends from school. And Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus's teacher from Sunny Hills Elementary. Elon sat in the back, wearing a simple black suit. He watched as people shared memories of Marcus. His uncle talked about how Marcus loved to build Lego spaceships. His cousin remembered how Marcus always shared his lunch with kids who forgot theirs. Then Mrs. Rodriguez stood up to speak. "Marcus was special," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "He saw the world differently than other kids. While they played video games, Marcus dreamed about the future. She looked directly at Elon. Marcus told me about meeting his hero. He said Mr. Musk promised to always tell the truth. Marcus believed that promise would change the world. After the service, people gathered around Marcus's small casket. It was covered with drawings from his classmates, rockets and planets and cars that could fly. All the dreams of children who still believed in impossible things. Elon placed a small SpaceX pin on top of the casket. "Keep dreaming, Marcus," he whispered. As people began to leave, Mrs. Rodriguez approached him. "Mr. Musk, I'm Elena Rodriguez. I was Marcus's teacher. He talked about you. He said you encouraged his dreams." Mrs. Rodriguez smiled sadly. Marcus had more dreams in his 12 years than most people have in a lifetime. He believed in you. He believed in the future you're building. She paused, looking toward the casket. "He told me you promised to always tell the truth." He was so proud of that promise. "He was a special kid," Elon said. "Yes, he was. And he trusted you with something very important. Don't let him down." Elon drove back to the airport in silence. In his briefcase was Marcus's drawing of Earth and Mars connected by stars. He had carried it with him every day since Marcus gave it to him. That evening, he hung the drawing in his office at Tesla headquarters, right above his desk, where he would see it every day. The message at the bottom, "Keep your promises," seemed to watch him like a reminder. But keeping that promise was harder than Elon had expected. The next week brought more bad news. Tesla's autopilot system had been involved in another accident. A family of 4 in Colorado. This time, a drunk driver had hit them while their Tesla was on autopilot. But the media blamed Tesla anyway. "We need to fight back," his lawyer said during an emergency meeting. "We need to show that the other driver was at fault." Elon stared at Marcus's drawing on the wall. "Always tell the truth, even when it's hard." What if Tesla could have prevented the accident? Elon asked. "Sir, what if our autopilot should have seen the drunk driver coming? What if we could have swerved out of the way?" His legal team looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Musk, we can't admit fault. Tesla's stock would crash. The lawsuits would destroy us." But Elon kept thinking about Marcus. About a boy who faced death with more courage than most adults faced a bad day at work. Every day, the pressure got worse. Dr. Sarah Chun appeared on more TV shows, talking about Tesla's safety problems. She had inside information about accidents Tesla hadn't reported. She knew about software bugs Tesla was still trying to fix that Elon's board of directors called emergency meetings. Investors threatened to pull their money. The media called him reckless and dangerous. And every day, Marcus's drawing reminded him, "Keep your promises." But how do you tell the truth when the truth might destroy everything you've built? How do you honor a promise to a dead child when that promise could cost thousands of jobs? Late at night, when the office was empty, Elon would stare at the drawing and remember Marcus's words. "The world needs honest heroes more than it needs perfect ones." Marcus had been dying, but he wasn't afraid to ask for what mattered most. Honesty, truth, someone willing to do the right thing even when it hurt. 3 months after Marcus's funeral, Dr. Sarah Chun issued her challenge for a public debate. The media called it the trial of the century. 50 million people would be watching. Elon accepted the debate. Even though his lawyers begged him not to, he couldn't explain why. He just knew that somewhere, somehow, Marcus Thompson was watching, too. And Elon had made him a promise he was finally ready to keep, no matter what it cost. The Tesla headquarters in Austin buzzed with nervous energy. Lawyers filled the conference rooms, their briefcases packed with documents and defense strategies. Everyone knew the debate with Dr. Sarah Chun was only 2 weeks away. "Mr. Musk, you need to understand what's at stake here," said David Harrison, Tesla's head lawyer. He spread papers across the long conference table like battle plans. "Dr. Chun has internal documents. She knows about accidents we haven't made public yet." Elon sat at the head of the table, staring out the window at the Texas sky. Marcus's drawing hung on the wall behind him, but he couldn't bring himself to look at it. "How many accidents?" Elon asked quietly. The lawyers exchanged uncomfortable glances. 23 incidents in the past 2 years, Harrison admitted. Minor ones. No deaths except for the Austin crossing guard incident. 23. Elon repeated the number like a curse word. And we reported how many? Officially? 12. The others were classified differently. Mechanical failures, driver error, weather conditions. Elon finally turned around. Marcus's drawing seemed to stare at him from the wall. "Keep your promises," the boy had written in his careful handwriting. "Sir, if we admit to hiding these accidents, Tesla's stock will crash," Harrison continued. "We could lose 60% of our value overnight. Thousands of people will lose their jobs. The electric car revolution could be set back by decades." Sarah Kim, Tesla's head of public relations, nodded frantically. "The environmental impact alone would be devastating. If Tesla fails, people will go back to gas cars. Climate change will get worse. Plus the lawsuits," added another lawyer. "If we admit fault, we'll face billions in damages. Tesla might not survive." Elon rubbed his tired eyes. He hadn't slept well since Marcus died. Every night, he dreamed about the boy's bright smile and impossible questions about Mars. "What does Sarah Chin want?" Elon asked. "Full transparency," Harrison said. "She wants Tesla to admit to every accident. She wants us to recall all autopilot vehicles until we fix every software bug. She wants you to personally apologize to every victim's family. And if we don't, she goes to Congress. She releases the documents to the media. She destroys us piece by piece on national television." Elon stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Tesla employees were getting into their electric cars to drive home to their families. Good people who believed in the mission. People who trusted him to protect their jobs. "There's something else," Harrison said carefully. "Dr. Chun has been in contact with Emma Rodriguez's family." Elon's blood went cold. "What did you say?" "The little girl who died in the Austin accident. Her grandmother wants to attend the debate. She wants to ask you questions personally." The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the Austin accident. A Tesla on autopilot had failed to stop for a crossing guard. 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez had died because the car's computer couldn't recognize a simple stop sign. Her grandmother, Elon repeated slowly. "Elena Rodriguez. She was the child's teacher too, at Sunny Hills Elementary." The pieces clicked together in Elon's mind like a horrible puzzle. Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus's teacher, the woman who had spoken so beautifully at his funeral, the woman who had trusted Elon with her student's dying wish, and now her granddaughter was dead because Tesla's autopilot had failed. "Sir," Harrison looked concerned. "You've gone very pale." Elon couldn't speak. How could he face Mrs. Rodriguez? How could he look into the eyes of the woman who had watched him promise a dying boy to always tell the truth? "We need to discuss strategy," Sarah Kim said, pulling out her tablet. "We've prepared talking points. Ways to redirect blame. The drunk driver should have been more careful. The crossing guard should have worn brighter clothing. The city should have installed better traffic signals." "Stop," Elon said quietly. "Sir, just stop." Elon turned away from the window. "All of you, get out." The lawyers and PR people looked at each other nervously. "Mr. Musk, we need to prepare. Get out." Elon shouted, his voice echoing off the glass walls. The room emptied quickly. Elon stood, alone with Marcus's drawing, feeling the weight of two promises crushing down on him. The promise to always tell the truth, and the promise to protect Tesla and all the people who depended on it. That evening, Elon drove to Marcus's grave. The small headstone was simple, with just his name and dates. Someone had left fresh flowers. Probably Mrs. Rodriguez, still caring for her student even after death. "I don't know how to keep your promise without destroying everything," Elon whispered to the stone. "If I tell the truth, Tesla dies. If Tesla dies, the mission dies. Electric cars, Mars colonies, everything we talked about." The wind rustled through the trees, but Marcus didn't answer. Dead boys don't give advice to billionaires struggling with impossible choices. Elon's phone buzzed. A news alert. Dr. Sarah Chun had just appeared on CNN again. "Elon Musk has built his empire on lies," she was saying on the small screen. "He promised the world that Tesla would be safer than human drivers. But he's covered up dozens of accidents. He's put profit before people's lives." The interviewer leaned forward. "Dr. Chun, what would you say to Elon Musk if he was watching right now?" Sarah looked directly into the camera. "I'd say it's time to face the truth. In 2 weeks, at Stanford University, he'll have to answer for every life lost because of his deception, including 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez." The screen showed Emma's school photo again. A little girl with pigtails and braces, smiling wide at the camera. She looked so much like Marcus when he smiled, full of hope and dreams about the future. A future she would never see because Tesla's autopilot had failed her. Elon closed his phone and stared at Marcus's headstone. The boy had asked for honesty. Always tell the truth, even when it's hard. But Emma Rodriguez was dead. Mrs. Rodriguez had lost her granddaughter. And somehow, Elon had to face them both and explain why Tesla's promise of safety had been a lie. In 2 weeks, 50 million people would be watching. His lawyers wanted him to deny everything. His board wanted him to save the company, but a dying boy had asked him for something simpler and harder than saving the world, the truth, even if it destroyed him. The next morning, Elon woke up to his phone ringing nonstop. His assistant Lisa was calling from Tesla headquarters, her voice shaky with panic. "Sir, you need to see the news. Dr. Chen just issued a public challenge on live television." Elon turned. On CNN, while still in his pajamas, there was Sarah Chun, sitting across from Anderson Cooper, looking calm and determined. "Dr. Chun," Cooper was saying, "you've made some serious accusations against Tesla and Elon Musk. How do you respond to people who say you're just a disgruntled former employee?" Sarah's eyes flashed. "I have documents, Anderson. Internal emails. Accident reports that Tesla buried. Video footage of autopilot failures that the public has never seen." She leaned forward, speaking directly to the camera. "If Elon Musk truly believes in his technology, if he stands behind Tesla's safety record, then let him debate me publicly. Let him answer questions about every autopilot death, including 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez." Cooper raised his eyebrows. "Are you formally challenging Mr. Musk to a debate?" "Yes. Stanford University has offered to host it. 1 week from today, prime time. Let 50 million people hear the truth about Tesla's cover-ups." Elon's phone exploded with calls. Reporters, investors, board members. Everyone wanted to know if he would accept the challenge. "Don't do it," David Harrison begged during an emergency meeting at Tesla headquarters. "It's a trap. She has inside information. She knows exactly which buttons to push." But Elon was barely listening. He kept thinking about Emma Rodriguez, about Mrs. Rodriguez losing her granddaughter the same way she had lost her student Marcus. Different causes, same heartbreak. "Sir," Lisa Park stood in the doorway. "Stanford University is holding for your answer. The whole world is waiting." Elon looked up at Marcus's drawing on the wall. The boy's careful handwriting seemed to glow. In the morning light, "Keep your promises. Tell them yes," Elon said quietly. The room erupted. Lawyers shouted. PR people panicked. Board members threatened to quit. "This is suicide," Harrison yelled. "Tesla's stock will crash before the debate even starts." But Elon had already made up his mind. He walked out of the meeting, leaving his entire team arguing behind him. That afternoon, Elon drove across Austin to Sunny Hills Elementary School. It was almost 3 o'clock, and kids were getting ready to go home. He parked across the street and watched through the chain-link fence that a crossing guard stood at the corner, wearing a bright yellow vest and holding a stop sign. She helped kindergarten students cross safely, just like Mrs. Martinez had been doing the day she died protecting Emma. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Musk?" Elon turned around. A woman in her 60s was walking toward him, carrying a teacher's bag covered with stickers and smiley faces. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I heard you were coming to the debate," she said softly. "I wanted to thank you for accepting Sarah's challenge." Elon felt like he might be sick. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm so sorry about Emma. About everything." She studied his face carefully. "Marcus talked about you constantly after you visited him. He said you promised to always tell the truth." "I did promise that." "Good." Mrs. Rodriguez smiled sadly. "Because Emma deserves the truth. Her parents deserve to know why their little girl died." She reached into her bag and pulled out a photo. Emma Rodriguez at 8 years old, wearing a pink backpack covered with unicorns. The same photo that would later appear on the debate stage. "This was taken the morning she died," Mrs. Rodriguez said. She was so excited about school that day. Her class was studying the solar system. She wanted to learn about Mars because Marcus had told her all about your space rockets. Elon's throat felt tight. She knew Marcus? "I told my class about him. After he died. About the brave boy who dreamed of Mars even when he was sick." Emma said she wanted to be an astronaut like Marcus wanted to be. The words hit Elon like physical blows. Marcus had inspired Emma, and now both children were gone. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I don't know what to say. Say the truth, Mr. Musk. That's all Marcus ever asked for." That's all Emma's family wants now. She handed him the photo. Keep this. Remember what you're fighting for. That evening, Elon's legal team tried one last time to change his mind. We've prepared a statement, Harrison said, spreading papers across Elon's desk. We deny all accusations. We blame driver error. We question Dr. Chen's motives. We protect Tesla at all costs. Elon picked up the photo of Emma Rodriguez. In it, she was grinning at the camera, her backpack almost as big as she was, ready for a day of learning about planets and stars and rockets. To Mars. What if we told the truth instead? Elon asked. Sir, what if we admitted our mistakes? What if we apologized to the families? What if we promised to do better? Harrison looked horrified. Tesla would face billions in lawsuits. The stock would become worthless. You'd lose everything you've built. Elon stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Tesla factory was still running, building cars that would help save the environment. Cars that would make the world cleaner for future children like Marcus and Emma. But if those cars weren't safe, what was the point? Schedule the debate for next week, Elon said firmly. Mr. Musk, and cancel my prep sessions. I don't want talking points or defense strategies. How will you prepare? Elon looked at Marcus's drawing one more time, then at Emma's photo. 2 children who had believed in the future. 2 children who deserved better than lies and cover-ups. I'll prepare by remembering what matters, he said. Not Tesla's stock price, not my reputation, just the truth. His legal team filed out of the office, shaking their heads in defeat. They thought Elon was throwing away everything he had worked for, but Elon knew better. Some things were more important than business empires. Some promises were worth keeping, even if they cost everything. In 1 week, he would face Dr. Sarah Chun in front of 50 million people. He would answer questions about Emma Rodriguez and every other victim of Tesla's failures. And for the first time in months, Elon felt ready. Not because he had good lawyers or clever strategies, but because he finally understood what Marcus Thompson had been trying to teach him. Heroes aren't the people who never make mistakes. Heroes are the people brave enough to admit when they're wrong. Stanford University's Memorial Auditorium had never felt more electric. Every seat was filled with students, professors, journalists, and Tesla investors. Camera crews from around the world pointed their lenses at the stage where 2 podiums waited under blazing spotlights. Outside, protesters held signs. Some supported Tesla and electric cars. Others demanded justice for autopilot victims. Police officers kept the groups separated, but everyone could feel the tension crackling in the October air. Inside the auditorium, Elon Musk sat in a small room backstage, staring at 2 photos on the table before him. Marcus Thompson's smiling face from the hospital. Emma Rodriguez with her unicorn backpack, excited about learning. 2 children who would never grow up because adults had failed them. Mr. Musk, a young Stanford student, knocked on the door. It's time. Elon tucked the photos into his jacket pocket, right next to his heart. Then he walked onto the stage to face his future. The crowd's reaction was immediate and mixed. Some people clapped politely. Others sat in stony silence. A few actually booed. Elon had never felt so alone in a room full of people. Dr. Sarah Chun was already at her podium, looking confident and prepared. She wore a dark blue suit that made her look professional and trustworthy. Her table was covered with folders, charts, and a laptop computer. She had come ready for war. Elon's table was empty except for a glass of water. Ladies and gentlemen, said Professor Janet Walsh, the debate moderator, welcome to what many are calling the most important technology debate of our time. The applause was thunderous. Behind the cameras, Elon could see the red lights that meant they were broadcasting live to the world. 50 million people were watching, maybe more. Tonight, we'll examine Tesla's autopilot technology and the serious safety concerns that have been raised, Professor Walsh continued. Dr. Chun, you have accused Tesla of covering up accidents and putting profits before safety. Please present your evidence. Sarah clicked her laptop. The giant screen behind them filled with a Tesla logo, then switched to a graph showing accident statistics. Thank you, Professor Walsh, Sarah began, her voice clear and strong. For 2 years, I worked as Tesla's head of safety engineering. I believed in the company's mission. I believed we were saving lives by making cars that didn't crash. The screen showed photos of Tesla factories and happy customers driving electric cars. But then I discovered something that changed everything. Tesla was hiding accident data from the public. We were using legal tricks to avoid reporting autopilot failures. We were putting innocent people at risk. The screen changed to show internal Tesla emails. Elon recognized some of them. Messages between lawyers about how to classify accidents. Discussions about delaying software updates to avoid bad publicity. These emails showed Tesla employees discussing how to hide 23 autopilot accidents from federal investigators, Sarah continued. 23 accidents that could have taught us how to make the system safer. Gasps echoed through the auditorium. Even though Elon had expected this, seeing the evidence displayed publicly made his stomach churn. Dr. Chun, Professor Walsh, said, "Those are serious accusations. Do you have proof that Mr. Musk personally knew about these cover-ups?" Sarah clicked to the next slide. It showed an email with Elon's name at the top. This email from Mr. Musk to his legal team says, and I quote, "We cannot afford another negative safety story. Find a way to classify the Phoenix incident as driver error, not autopilot failure." The crowd murmured angrily. Cameras zoomed in on Elon's face. He looked pale, but not surprised. The Phoenix incident, Sarah explained, involved a Tesla on autopilot hitting a parked fire truck. The driver was seriously injured. Tesla claimed he wasn't paying attention. But our internal data showed the autopilot should have seen the bright red fire truck from half a mile away. More emails appeared on screen. More evidence of Tesla trying to hide problems instead of fixing them. But the worst part, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger, is that we knew about these problems for months before they killed innocent people. We had the technology to fix them. But Tesla's executives were afraid that issuing software updates would make the company look bad. The screen showed a timeline. Software bugs discovered in January. Fixes developed in March. Updates delayed until July. And in June, the Austin crossing guard accident that killed Emma Rodriguez. If Tesla had released the safety update on schedule, Sarah said, Emma Rodriguez would still be alive today. The auditorium fell completely silent. Elon felt like everyone in the room was staring directly into his soul. "Mr. Musk," Professor Walsh said, "how do you respond to these accusations?" This was the moment. Elon's legal team had prepared him for this exact question. Deny everything. Attack Sarah's credibility. Point out that autopilot was still safer than human drivers. Instead, Elon stood up slowly and walked to his microphone. "Professor Walsh, before I respond, I need to tell you about 2 children." The crowd looked confused. This wasn't what anyone expected. 3 months ago, I met a 12-year-old boy named Marcus Thompson. He was dying of brain cancer, but he still dreamed about traveling to Mars. He was one of the smartest people I've ever met. Elon pulled out Marcus's photo and held it up to the camera. "Marcus asked me to make a promise. He said the world needed honest heroes more than perfect ones. He made me promise to always tell the truth, even when it was hard." The auditorium was dead quiet. Even Sarah looked surprised. 2 weeks later, Marcus died. At his funeral, I met his teacher, Mrs. Elena Rodriguez. She told me how proud Marcus was of my promise. Elon's voice began to shake. What I didn't know was that Mrs. Rodriguez had a granddaughter, an 8-year-old girl named Emma who loved unicorns and wanted to learn about Mars. He pulled out Emma's photo and held it next to Marcus's. Emma Rodriguez died because Tesla's autopilot failed to stop for her crossing guard. She died because we delayed a safety update that could have saved her life. She died because I broke my promise to Marcus. The crowd began to murmur. Some people were crying. Others looked angry. But everyone was listening. "Dr. Chun is right," Elon continued. "Tesla covered up 23 accidents. We used legal language to avoid taking responsibility. We prioritized our stock price over people's lives." His legal team in the front row looked like they wanted to drag him off the stage. "I personally approved strategies to hide safety problems from the public. I was more worried about protecting Tesla's reputation than protecting children like Emma Rodriguez." The murmuring grew louder. Cameras flashed like lightning. This was not what anyone had expected to hear. "What?" Sarah asked from across the stage. She looked genuinely shocked. "Why are you admitting this?" Elon looked out at the audience and found Mrs. Rodriguez in the 3rd row. She was crying, but she was also nodding encouragingly. "Because a dying child taught me that keeping promises matters more than keeping companies," Elon said. "Because Emma Rodriguez deserved better." Because all the families we failed deserve the truth. The auditorium erupted. Some people started clapping. Others shouted questions. Professor Walsh banged her gavel, trying to restore order, but Elon wasn't finished. He had more truth to tell. Professor Walsh banged her gavel repeatedly, but the crowd wouldn't quiet down. Students were shouting questions. Reporters were typing frantically on their phones. Camera operators zoomed in on Elon's face, trying to capture every emotion. "Order," Professor Walsh called out. "Let Mr. Musk finish his statement." Slowly, the auditorium grew quiet again, but the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. 50 million people around the world were glued to their screens, waiting to hear what Elon would say next. Dr. Sarah Chun stood frozen. At her podium, her prepared notes forgotten. She had expected Elon to deny everything, to fight back with lawyers and spin doctors. She had never imagined he would simply tell the truth. Elon took a deep breath and continued. Tesla has failed to report 23 autopilot incidents over the past 2 years. We classified them as driver error or mechanical failure to avoid federal investigation. But the real reason was simple. We were afraid. His voice grew stronger as he spoke, like a man finally free from carrying a terrible secret. We were afraid that admitting our mistakes would destroy the electric car revolution. We told ourselves we were protecting something bigger than individual accidents. We said we were saving the planet. Elon paused and looked directly at Mrs. Rodriguez in the third row. But we were really just protecting ourselves. Our stock price, our reputation, our pride. The silence in the auditorium was complete. Even the camera operators had stopped moving. The Austin Crossing Guard accident happened on June 15th, Elon continued. Mrs. Patricia Martinez was killed instantly. 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez died 3 hours later at Dell Children's Medical Center. His voice broke slightly on Emma's name. Our internal investigation showed that Tesla's autopilot system failed to recognize Mrs. Martinez's stop sign. The software had a known bug in its crossing guard detection system. We had identified this exact problem 6 months earlier. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Dr. Chin's face went pale. We developed a fix for the bug in March. The software update was ready to install in April, but Tesla's board decided to delay the release until after our quarterly earnings report. Elon pulled out a piece of paper from his jacket. "This is an email I sent to our software team on May 20th. It says, hold the safety update until Q2 earnings are announced. We can't afford negative headlines right now." The crowd erupted again. People were shouting, some in anger, others in disbelief. Camera flashes went off like fireworks. "If we had released that update on schedule," Elon said, his voice barely audible over the noise, "Emma Rodriguez would be alive today. She would be in 3rd grade, learning about the solar system, dreaming about becoming an astronaut like Marcus wanted to be." Professor Walsh was banging her gavel so hard it looked like it might break. "Order. Order in the court." Dr. Sarah Chun stepped away from her podium and walked toward Elon. The entire auditorium watched as she approached him. "Why?" she asked quietly, but her microphone picked up every word. "Elon, why are you doing this? You're destroying everything you built." Elon reached into his pocket and pulled out Marcus's drawing. The paper was worn from being carried everywhere for 3 months. He held it up so the cameras could see it clearly. "This is a picture Marcus Thompson drew for me the last time I saw him alive. He drew Earth and Mars connected by a bridge of stars. At the bottom, he wrote 4 words that changed my life." The camera zoomed in on the drawing. The entire world could see Marcus's careful handwriting. "Keep your promises. Love, Marcus." "Marcus asked me to promise that I would always tell the truth, even when it was hard," Elon said. "Even when it cost everything." He said the world needed honest heroes more than perfect ones. Tears were running down Mrs. Rodriguez's cheeks, but she was smiling through them. "For 3 months, I tried to find a way to keep that promise without destroying Tesla. I told myself that losing the company would hurt more people than hiding a few accidents. I convinced myself that the greater good was more important than individual truth." Elon folded the drawing carefully and put it back in his pocket. "But Emma Rodriguez changed everything. When I realized that Marcus's teacher was Emma's grandmother. When I understood that my broken promise had killed another innocent child, I knew what I had to do." The auditorium was so quiet you could hear people breathing. "Tesla lied. I lied. We put profits before people, stock prices before safety, corporate success before children's lives. And Emma Rodriguez paid the price for our cowardice. Dr. Chun was crying now too. Elon, do you understand what this means? Tesla will face billions in lawsuits. You could lose everything. Good, Elon said simply. Maybe I should lose everything. Maybe that's what it takes to keep a promise to a dying child. He turned to face the cameras directly. To Emma Rodriguez's family, to Mrs. Martinez's family, to every person hurt by Tesla's failures, I am deeply, truly sorry. We failed you. I failed you. And no amount of money can bring back the people we lost. The crowd was on its feet now, but not everyone was clapping. Some people were cheering, moved by Elon's honesty. Others were shouting angry questions about their Tesla stock investments. There's one more thing, Elon said, raising his voice above the noise. The auditorium quieted again. Effective immediately, Tesla will recall every vehicle with the flawed autopilot software. We will install the safety updates for free. We will establish a victim compensation fund with $2 billion of my personal money. And we will release all internal safety data to federal investigators. David Harrison, Elon's lawyer, stood up in the front row and started walking toward the exit. He couldn't watch his client destroy himself any further. Furthermore, Elon continued, I am appointing Dr. Sarah Chun as Tesla's new chief safety officer. She will have complete authority over all autopilot development. No software will be released without her personal approval. Dr. Chun looked shocked. Elon, I just spent an hour trying to destroy you on national television. You were trying to save lives? Elon replied. That's exactly who I need running Tesla's safety program. The crowd erupted one final time. People were standing, cheering, crying, shouting questions. The camera operators couldn't keep up with all the reactions. Professor Walsh had given up trying to control the chaos. This was no longer a debate. It had become something unprecedented in corporate history. A complete confession. Elon walked over to Mrs. Rodriguez in the third row. The cameras followed him as he took her hands in his. I'm sorry, he whispered, though the microphones caught every word. I'm so sorry about Emma. About Marcus. About all of it. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled through her tears. Marcus would be proud of you, she said. You kept your promise. As Elon walked off the stage, leaving behind the chaos and the shouting and the flashing cameras, he felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Peace. He had told the truth. All of it. Whatever happened next, he had finally kept his word to a dying boy who had believed that honest heroes could change the world. Maybe Marcus had been right. Maybe the truth really could set you free, even if it destroyed everything else. In the process, the first 48 hours after the Stanford debate were brutal. Tesla's stock price crashed by 67% before trading was suspended. News channels played the confession video on repeat. Elon's meltdown screamed the headlines. Tesla admits deadly cover-up, read the newspapers. Elon sat in his empty office at Tesla headquarters, watching the chaos unfold on every screen. His phone hadn't stopped ringing since he left Stanford. Lawyers demanding emergency meetings. Board members threatening to sue him personally. Investors screaming about billions in losses. But Elon felt strangely calm. Marcus's drawing still hung on the wall above his desk, and for the first time in months, he could look at it without feeling guilty. Sir, Lisa Park knocked on his door. The board is here for an emergency meeting. The Tesla boardroom had never felt more hostile. 12 angry faces stared at Elon as he walked in. These were some of the richest, most powerful people in Silicon Valley, and they looked ready to tear him apart. Elon, what have you done? Demanded Rebecca Chun, the board chairwoman. Tesla is finished. Completely finished. The lawsuits started this morning, said board member James Wright. 47 different cases filed already. They're seeking $200 billion in damages. Our insurance won't cover intentional deception, added another member. Every accident victim's family can now sue us directly. Elon listened quietly as they listed the disasters. Government investigations, criminal charges, employee layoffs, factory closures. You've destroyed 30,000 jobs, Rebecca continued. You've set back the electric car industry by decades. Climate change will get worse because people will go back to gas cars. Are you finished? Elon asked calmly. The room fell silent. Good. Then let me tell you what else has happened in the past 48 hours. Elon stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Tesla employees were still arriving for work, even though they didn't know if they'd have jobs next week. Toyota called this morning. They want to license our safety protocols. BMW wants to hire Dr. Chun to review their autopilot systems. Ford is implementing our new transparency standards. He turned back to the board. The European Union announced new rules requiring all automakers to report every autonomous vehicle incident within 24 hours. China is doing the same. Because of what happened at Stanford, every car company in the world will have to be more honest about safety. Rebecca shook her head. That doesn't save Tesla. Maybe Tesla doesn't deserve to be saved, Elon said quietly. The room erupted. Board members shouted over each other. Someone threatened to call security. Enough. Elon slammed his hand on the table. Tesla became everything I swore it would never become. We became just another corporation that put profit before people. We lost our way. He pulled out Emma's photo and placed it on the conference table. This little girl died because we were cowards, because we cared more about quarterly earnings than quarterly casualties. If Tesla has to die to prevent more Emma Rodriguez's, then maybe that's the right choice. 3 board members walked out. Others started making phone calls to their lawyers. But something unexpected was happening outside the boardroom. Tesla employees weren't panicking. They weren't updating their resumes or cleaning out their desks. Instead, they were working harder than ever. The engineering teams are pulling all-nighters, Lisa reported. They want to make sure the safety updates are perfect before we release them. The factory workers in Austin started a petition, added Tom Bradley. They're asking to work overtime to install the new software faster. Elon was confused. Why aren't they angry? Why aren't they blaming me for destroying their jobs? Lisa smiled. Because they finally believe in Tesla again. For the first time in years, they're proud to work here. The real surprise came 72 hours after the debate. Tesla's customer service phones were ringing nonstop, but not with angry complaints. People were calling to schedule appointments for the safety updates. Others wanted to buy Tesla cars specifically because of Elon's honesty. It doesn't make sense, said Sarah Chun, who had officially started as chief safety officer that morning. Every business school textbook says admitting fault destroys companies. Tesla should be bankrupt by now. But Tesla's website was crashing from too much traffic, not from angry protesters, but from customers wanting to support a company that told the truth. We got 17,000 new orders yesterday, reported the sales manager. People are saying they trust Tesla now because you were honest about the problems. The hashtag #KeepYourPromises was trending worldwide. Marcus Thompson's story was being shared millions of times. Children were drawing pictures of Mars and sending them to Tesla headquarters. Dr. Chen couldn't believe what she was seeing. Elon, your confession has created the biggest consumer trust surge in corporate history. People want to buy from companies that admit their mistakes. Even the lawsuits were taking unexpected turns. 3 victim families dropped their cases after. Tesla reached out personally to apologize and offer compensation. Others were agreeing to smaller settlements because they felt heard and respected. Emma's parents don't want money, Mrs. Rodriguez told Elon during a private meeting. They want Emma's death to save other children. They want other companies to learn from Tesla's honesty. The most surprising call came from the White House. Mr. Musk, this is President Johnson's office. The president would like to invite you to speak at the National Safety Summit next month. Your Stanford confession has inspired new legislation requiring corporate transparency in all industries. Elon was speechless. I confessed to covering up deaths. Why would the president want to meet with me? Because you chose truth over profit, sir. That's exactly the kind of leadership America needs right now. 2 weeks after Stanford, Tesla's stock had not only recovered, but reached an all-time high. Other companies were copying Tesla's transparency policies. Business schools were teaching courses about the Musk model of honest leadership, but the real change was smaller and more personal. Elon visited Marcus's grave every week, bringing new drawings from children around the world who had heard Marcus's story. The small headstone was now surrounded by flowers, toy rockets, and handwritten notes from kids who promised to always tell the truth. Mrs. Rodriguez had become Tesla's unofficial advisor on family relations. She helped design the victim compensation program and personally called every family affected by autopilot accidents. Marcus would be amazed, she told Elon one evening as they sat by his grave. His promise didn't just change you. It changed the whole world. Dr. Sarah Chun had transformed Tesla's safety program into the most rigorous in the industry. 0 accidents in 3 weeks since the new software launched. You know what's funny? Sarah said during a team meeting, Tesla is safer now than it ever was when we were hiding problems. Admitting mistakes made us better at preventing them. But the biggest change was in Elon himself, that he slept better. He smiled more. He spent time with engineers instead of just lawyers. And investors. Tesla felt like the idealistic company he had always dreamed of building. Sir, there's someone here to see you, Lisa announced one afternoon. A small boy about 8 years old walked into Elon's office, holding his mother's hand and carrying a crayon drawing. Mr. Musk, my name is David Chun. I heard about Marcus and Emma. I drew you a picture of the Mars city they would have built together. The drawing showed 2 children in spacesuits, planting Earth flowers in Martian soil. At the bottom, David had written, "Heroes tell the truth. Thank you for keeping your promise." Elon hung the drawing next to Marcus's original picture. 2 promises kept, 2 children remembered, and a whole world reminded that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply tell the truth, even when it costs everything. Especially when it costs everything. 6 months later, the morning sun painted the sky orange and pink as Elon Musk walked through the gates of Sunny Hills Elementary School. It was Friday morning, and he was about to do something that would have seemed impossible a year ago. He was going to teach a class about honesty. Mr. Musk, Mr. Musk. 3rd graders ran up to him in the hallway, their faces bright with excitement. Are you really going to tell us about Mars? And about keeping promises? Added a little girl with pigtails that reminded him of Emma Rodriguez. That's exactly what we're going to talk about, Elon said, smiling as he followed them to Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom. The past 6 months had changed everything. Tesla was now the most trusted car company in the world. Their safety record was perfect, 0 accidents since the new autopilot system launched. Other companies were copying Tesla's radical transparency model, sharing their safety data publicly every month. But more importantly, the world was changing. The Marcus Thompson Promise movement had spread to schools across America. Children were learning that heroes weren't people who never made mistakes, but people brave enough to admit when they were wrong. Companies were hiring truth officers whose job was to find and report problems before they hurt people. Good morning, class, Mrs. Rodriguez said as Elon entered her classroom. The walls were covered with children's drawings of rockets, Mars colonies, and Earth with big smiley faces. Today we have a very special visitor. Elon looked around the room at 30 eager 8-year-old faces. In the back corner, he noticed a memorial display with Emma Rodriguez's photo surrounded by flowers and drawings. Even 6 months later, her classmates remembered her. Hi everyone, Elon said, sitting on the floor so he could be at their eye level. I'm here to tell you about my friend Marcus Thompson and how a promise I made to him changed my life. For the next hour, Elon told Marcus's story. He talked about a brave boy who dreamed of Mars even when he was dying. He explained how Marcus asked him to always tell the truth, and how keeping that promise had been the hardest and most important thing he'd ever done. But Mr. Musk, asked a boy named Tyler, didn't telling the truth hurt your company? At first, yes, Elon admitted. Tesla's stock price crashed. People were angry. My lawyers thought I was crazy. Then why did you do it? Asked a girl named Sophia. Elon pulled out his phone and showed them a video. It was footage from the Tesla factory, where workers were installing the latest safety software into cars. Because now Tesla makes the safest cars in the world. Because other companies learned from our honesty and made their cars safer too. Because children like Emma Rodriguez aren't dying in preventable accidents anymore. The class was quiet, absorbing this lesson. Sometimes doing the right thing costs a lot, Elon continued. But doing the wrong thing always costs more in the end. After class, Elon walked with Mrs. Rodriguez to Emma's memorial corner. She would have been 9 next month, Mrs. Rodriguez said softly. She wanted to be an astronaut, just like Marcus dreamed of being an engineer. They're both heroes, Elon said. Marcus for teaching me about truth. Emma for showing me the cost of lies. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. You know what's amazing? Emma's parents have started a foundation called Truth Saves Lives. They visit companies, around the world, teaching executives about honest leadership. That afternoon, Elon drove to Dell Children's Medical Center for his weekly visit. But this wasn't a sad trip to remember the past. It was a hopeful trip to help the future.in room. For 12, where Marcus had once lay dying, a new patient was waiting. 7-year-old Maya Patel had leukemia, but her eyes sparkled with the same curiosity Marcus had shown. "Mr. Musk," Maya said excitedly as he entered, "I drew you a picture of the Mars greenhouse we talked about last week." The drawing showed a giant glass dome filled with colorful flowers and vegetables. Stick figures in spacesuits were tending to the plants, and above them, Maya had written, "Food for Mars Heroes." "This is incredible, Maya," Elon said, sitting beside her bed. "Have you thought about becoming a Mars botanist?" "What's a botanist?" "Someone who studies plants and helps them grow. Mars will need lots of botanists to grow food for the colonists." Maya's face lit up. "I want to be the first Mars botanist. I want to grow the biggest tomatoes in the solar system." Unlike with Marcus, this conversation wasn't shadowed by death. Maya's treatments were working. She was getting stronger every week. And she had something Marcus never got to see: a future where companies told the truth and children's dreams were protected by honest heroes. "Maya, can I ask you something important?" Elon said. "Sure. If you become the first Mars botanist, will you promise to always tell the truth about your work, even if you make mistakes?" Maya nodded seriously. "Like Marcus taught you." "Exactly like Marcus taught me. I promise, Mr. Musk. Truth heroes are the best heroes." That evening, Elon returned to Tesla headquarters for the company's weekly truth meeting. Every Friday, all employees gathered to discuss any problems, mistakes, or safety concerns from the past week. It was Dr. Sarah Chen's idea, and it had become the most important meeting of the week. "Any issues to report?" Sarah asked the assembled group. A young engineer raised her hand. "The new charging station in Portland has a software glitch. It's not dangerous, but it charges cars 10% slower than advertised." "Thank you for reporting that," Sarah said. "We'll fix it this weekend and send a notification to all customers explaining the delay." A year ago, Tesla would have hidden that problem. They would have hoped no one noticed. They would have waited until someone complained publicly before admitting the mistake. Now, they fixed problems immediately and told customers about every issue, no matter how small. "Anything else?" Sarah asked. Elon stood up. "I have something to share." He pulled out Maya Patel's drawing and showed it to the room. "This is from Maya, a 7-year-old girl who wants to be the first Mars botanist. She made me promise to always tell the truth, just like Marcus did." The room was quiet. Everyone at Tesla knew Marcus's story. His picture hung in the lobby next to Emma Rodriguez's. They were the company's guardian angels, reminding everyone why honesty mattered. "Maya is going to live," Elon continued. "She's going to grow up and maybe really become a Mars botanist. And when she does, she'll inherit a world where companies tell the truth because a brave boy named Marcus Thompson taught us that promises matter more than profits." As the meeting ended, Elon walked back to his office. Marcus's drawing still hung above his desk, now joined by dozens of similar pictures from children around the world. Kids who had heard Marcus's story and wanted to be truth heroes too. On his desk was a newspaper with the headline, "Tesla's safety model adopted worldwide. 0 autopilot deaths in 6 months." Elon smiled and looked up at Marcus's drawing one more time. "We kept the promise, Marcus," he said quietly. "And you were right. Honest heroes really can change the world." Outside his window, the first Tesla trucks were rolling off the assembly line. Each one had a small plaque inside that read, "In memory of Marcus Thompson and Emma Rodriguez, truth saves lives." A year ago, Elon had been afraid that telling the truth would destroy everything he had built. Instead, it had helped him build something better, a company that saved lives instead of hiding deaths, a world where children's dreams were protected by adults brave enough to admit their mistakes, a future that Marcus Thompson would have been proud to see. The promise was kept. The truth had set them free. And somewhere among the stars, 2 children were smiling. I'd love to know where you're listening from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below. It's always amazing to see how far these stories travel around the world. If this story touched your heart or made you think differently about the power of keeping promises, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who might need to hear Marcus's message about honest heroes. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. We share tales of courage, kindness, and the extraordinary power of ordinary people making extraordinary choices. And here's my biggest ask. Please share this video with your friends and family. Share it with anyone who could use a reminder that truth matters, that promises have power, and that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to be heroes. Together, we can spread more kindness and awareness in this world. After all, as Marcus Thompson taught us, the world needs honest heroes more than perfect ones. Until next time, keep your promises and keep being amazing. See you in the next story.